Hello and welcome back to the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We are live and it is Friday night. I hope you've all had a tremendous week. I hope your week's gone a lot better than it has for some of us around here who are still trying to, work our jobs, work the dumb morning shifts, or trying to graduate college. That would sound about right, or for some of us, we're trying to get ready for a long overdue vacation. Yay. But that means I have to work extra hours. Yay. But the good news is, obviously, we got a pretty stacked show tonight. It's going to be a very fun time hanging out with the one, the only, Josh Tapia, a.k.a. JTE. But who am I? I am merely your host, Chris Dohmen, for this show. And here tonight, we got the regular crew, starting with Kees, Cornelisse. Dude, what is up? How have you been?
I have been pretty good, if I say so myself. It's been a minute that I've been on, so let me quickly recap what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. First of all, I want to go back 2 weeks when Liverpool played their biggest game of the year so far against Manchester City, the second best team. We won, yay! Then, in that same week, or a few days later, really, Irina came, my girlfriend. She's here. She's here to stay for a couple of weeks, so that's always fun. We had a very nice weekend last weekend. Then there was a really good Formula One race that the Dutch guy won, and thanks to him winning, he's now actually third in the championship and looking very good to finish it in third, which will be his best result. I know that you guys probably don't care about sports, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because later on we have someone who supports the Patriots, and that's where I just clock out. Anyway, and yeah, I survived the morning shift again, so I'm proud of myself.
Woohoo! Yeah. I kind of wish our recording schedule did, but unfortunately, them's the breaks. It is what it is. Brian Newsbaum, I see that you're in the chat. Always good to see you. Hashtag China Sticks Captain. Ford v Ferrari. Yeah, just rub it in.
Yes.
Rub the salt in the wound. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw that last week. It is awesome. It's my favorite movie of the year.
Nice, awesome. Yeah. No, I'm gonna make some time for it. Probably on Monday to go. I'll go check that out, and I'll probably also go check out something else I missed last week because I've actually missed a lot of movies in the last week. I'm kind of disappointed in myself for it. But
speaking of, I'm seeing Knives Out tomorrow. Haha.
I hate you so much right now. That's all right. And of course, we've also got the Suave one, Nico Regoli. Taking a little time off from trying to graduate. Nico, how has your week been?
Well, okay. Ooh, Sami Zayn just revealed a new Intercontinental Championship belt on the TV. That's cool. But anyway, sorry, SmackDown's playing on the TV in the background. Yeah, I've basically been a slave to the college educational system for the past week, if not longer than that. But it feels like the slavery has been at its highest this week because, so when I get stressed out, I do a lot of walking, and I've done a tremendous amount of walking this week in between writing papers. So it got to a point where I was like, it's a sunny day, but I don't feel like walking Luna because my legs are just too damn tired from the previous amount of walking I've done these past couple days. On the bright side, I picked up my cap and gown from the bookstore, so it's feeling a lot more real that in 4 weeks, I might finally cross that aisle and receive a fake diploma. The real one will come in the mail a few weeks afterwards, but I'll finally get to be done with my college career until I decide otherwise, which I don't think I will, but you never know. The future has a lot of possibilities. But I'm happy that I'm getting close. I'm happy that I'm getting close. And I'm happy that I have something to look forward to over the weekend in the form of NXT TakeOver War Games, Survivor Series, And oh yeah, Thanksgiving break has officially begun, so I get a week to just chill.
There you go. Awesome.
Scratch that. Chill, but still write a bunch of stuff in the form of papers for school.
Well,
so
of course.
Yeah, it'll be a working vacation.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'll be doing when I take my vacation. Because yes, sure, I will be away for a couple of weeks. Which is a little longer than I'd like to be, but them's the breaks. That's how it is. But I'm going to be taking my laptop with, and I'm going to finally get some goddamn writing done. Because, man, am I overdue. I am seriously overdue for getting some writing done. On K-Wolf, I saw that in the chat that, unfortunately, your mom has been in the hospital. So, dude, speedy recovery, man. We're sending some good vibes your way.
Yes.
Shit, there was something else I wanted to talk about.
You have some rants planned tonight.
Well, I've got some rants planned, and we'll get into that once we dive into the movie news. But there was something else on my mind, and I kind of forgot what I was actually going to say. Oh, that's right, I remember. So listen, JTH, we love you here at the channel.
Oh dear.
But I kind of smoked his ass in a trivia match over at Call to Action.
Are we surprised?
No, but and I do have to give some credit here. James Spence, who wrote all the questions and hosted the match and whatnot, he is now responsible for my first perfect game ever. So, yeah. I can finally say I've had a perfect game. Yay! Oh, sorry?
Took you long enough.
I know, right?
We love to kiss our own asses here.
Yeah, sometimes. Only if it's, something that hasn't happened before, and for me, it's never happened before. So, hey, I'll take it. Don't really have much else that I really want to get into outside of, for those of you who have been submitting some stuff for joining the channel, if we haven't responded yet, it's not because we're being dicks. It's just unfortunately we're still
we're busy.
We're busy.
We haven't had time to sit down and talk it over even. So
exactly. But once I think once Nico and I get back from Spectacular, and then once he's done graduating, so probably around Christmas is when we'll start truly going through the final processes. So you guys still got the better part of 3 weeks to just hand us some stuff, and there have been some names we're definitely looking at, but we're just not there yet.
I haven't even looked at the submissions yet, so there's just no time in my life right now, sans a few things, for me to just look at those emails.
Yeah, so yes, we have gotten them. We've just been incredibly freaking busy. So don't take it. So don't get impatient with us, please. As far as housekeeping goes, I think that one more thing of housekeeping before we dive into the movie news. So yeah, next week I mentioned that I will be out of town, but at the very least, Case and I are going to shoot something next week to sort of pre-tape something that will air next Friday night. Same bat time, same bat channel. And
week after week off.
Yeah, exactly. And then the week of Spectacular, we're just gonna take the week off.
Because Nico and Chris will be in LA, so it's difficult for them to shoot anything. Period. And it will be my birthday that Friday, so yeah, I'm not doing the show on that day.
Exactly. So
yeah, so it is what it is. Actually, there's one more bit of housekeeping. So within the next week, I will have an announcement on this channel in the form of a video about the schedule for Trivia for Thon 2. And I hope you all watch it. I hope you all will be excited by the matches we will announce. Hopefully more excited than we were for this past episode of Star Wars Resistance, because we did not do a recap episode of that one.
Actually, we might do that tomorrow.
Really?
Well, we're going to review The Mandalorian tomorrow, so I would assume we have some time to then shoot it after.
well,
And yes, I know we're late, but who cares anyway?
Well done, sir. Well done. So yeah, that's essentially the goings-on of that stuff. Jonathan Peck, always good to see you. Who else we got in the chat? Sound off. Who else is in here? Always love seeing your bright, lovely faces. But, guys, let's start diving into some movie news. Starting with Joker 2? Oh, wait. No, it's not happening. Thank Christ. Now, the big clickbait headline going around was that there was a rumor that there would be an actual Joker 2 happening, with Joaquin coming back and Todd directing again, which, thank God, no. No. Instead, they are looking to, Warner Brothers and Todd Phillips are looking to possibly do another DC villain, though. And the rumored ones so far are Clayface and Lex Luthor. Sort of showing either the rise of how someone like Lex Luthor came to be as powerful as he was, or how Clayface, went from just a common criminal to, well, Clayface.
Okay, so I just have one big request. No Jesse fucking Eisenberg as Luthor.
Yes. In fact, here's a fun casting tip. Why don't you give us Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor already?
See, I don't know if I want a Lex Luthor story because we've kind of already... Lex Luthor has been portrayed a lot in the past, and granted, so is the Joker. But what if Rupert Murdoch wanted to kill Superman? I feel like that's the only take you could really go with a Lex Luthor movie told from the perspective of someone like a Todd Phillips. And
well,
with Clayface, on the other hand, Clayface as a character, he's an actor who got these powers to literally morph into anything and anyone he chooses. And at one point in the comics, Clayface even got redeemed before dying. So he got to be a hero and work with Red Hood and the Outlaws, which was Jason Todd working with Bizarro and an Amazon whose name escapes me at the moment. Comic book people, if you know the answer, Comicstorian did a whole video series on Red Hood and the Outlaws. If you're familiar with it, help me out here. But I'm kind of forgetting her name. But yeah, Clayface is a character that we haven't gotten to see much of. Not even in any of the Batman movies, with the exception of the Lego Batman, I think. So, it would be nice to. It would be nice to see something that we haven't seen, as opposed to a new take on something we already have seen.
Well, and you're right, and I agree with you. Although the way that I'm seeing it is, if let's say they were to do Lex Luthor. A lot of people compared Joker to The King of Comedy, the Martin Scorsese film, which, yeah, they're not wrong. I think it's a little unfair that, they use it as a harsh criticism of the movie, when I think it's actually kind of one of its strengths. But what I think they could do with Lex Luthor, essentially do the Batman version of Citizen Kane. Because that's the kind of story that that Luthor had. His father kind of... Oh, sorry.
What is going to be the name of his sled?
Mercy.
Yeah, there we go. Yes. But yes, we've seen a lot of portrayals of Lex Luthor as he already was.
Yeah, and to be fair, none of them have been as good as the comics version, I feel. Gene Hackman was good, but I feel they could have done better. And a lot of people still argue that Kevin Spacey was the best, but that was in a very ant movie. So
the best so far, I'd say it's Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville, with John Cryer taking second for his recent work in Supergirl.
And literally, you beat me to the punch I was about to make. where the only time we've seen the quote-unquote rise of Luthor is in Smallville. But, Smallville, unfortunately, is already starting to become kind of a forgotten show.
Yeah.
Hate to say
Oh,
it.
Crisis on Infinite Earths is going to change that. It's going to bring back a lot of nostalgia feels.
Well, I mean, yes, for the people who
For the people
did
who
watch
know it, but the people who don't know it will go right over their head.
Yeah, unfortunately, because the bits of it that I did see, I did like, but I just, I wasn't able to catch up once I fell off. So what I think what I think they should do is, reintroduce Lex Luthor, but do cast someone a little bit on the younger side. Let's say, just for example, Dan Stevens. Let's say we get someone, or like Joel Edgerton, like, again, someone on the younger side of things who could really portray the young man who, once he takes over for Lionel, like, wants to do good, but finds himself unable to because, well, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Difficult for me to visualize those guys pulp. Oh. Might be just me.
Fair enough. Again, I was just trying to go off of just the first names that came to my head that weren't, Tom Hiddleston or actually
the well-known
yes.
people who get every role ever these days.
Exactly. So that's that was kind of my feeling. Oh God. Okay, Brian Nussbaum, that's hilarious. If it does happen, could the review on the poster be Scott Mann saying, "This is the Citizen Kane of Citizen Kane ripoffs"? That's
brother.
That'd be great. But speaking of DC stuff, just to move on. So apparently, even though like we all know the Snyder Cut doesn't exist, it's not a thing. But try telling that to Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, Ray Fisher, David A. Like, seriously, so many freaking people are suddenly in on this, like, cult mentality of, oh, the Snyder Cut exists and we want to see it. Do we, though?
No.
And too much time's passed.
And here's why. Justice League sucks. A different cut is not going to change that. Because the main reasons that it sucks is because there is horrible CGI that is not going to get improved because of the different cut. There is a horrible villain in it, in Steppenwolf, which is not going to get better because of a different cut. The CGI is still going to be terrible. The voice is still going to be terrible. And everything about the villain is going to be terrible, even with a different cut. And you may add one or two more character moments. Oh, by the way, if you add more Superman into this movie with the horrible CGI lip, I will fucking kill you because it looks terrible. Sorry, I hate Justice League, and this movie sucks. So no, this movie, there should not be a fucking Snyder Cut. Just let it die and move on to your new thing that you're doing because it seems to be working, and stop with the fucking DCU already.
Nico?
I'm trying to figure out like what the desire is to want to see this, and I think it's just like Joss Whedon's vision was a lot different from what I'm assuming Zack Snyder's vision was for the Justice League movie, and then you throw in all the Warner Brothers execs who kept trying to throw their own visions into the fray, and it just got so messy. And I think people just want to know, like, what was this movie originally going to be before Zack Snyder left the project to deal with family issues?
It would be less red.
I mean, for all we know, it might have actually been more red. Because like there's a lot of red CGI in Batman v Superman. There's a lot of there's a significant amount of red CGI and water CGI, which is hard to deal with for Man of Steel. So like there probably would have been the same CGI problems, but like I think they're more focused on what would the story be. And what throws me off is Gal Gadot must think that what the Snyder cut or the story that was supposed to be in the Snyder cut was really good if she's willing to say, let's bring this out just a few months before Wonder Woman 84 is supposed to come out.
Yeah.
Like, why would you risk the prospects of your upcoming movie where you're playing the same character? Why would you risk that unless you think you have a bona fide good project on your hands that nobody is getting a chance to see?
Yeah, and that's kind of what's been, piquing my curiosity as far as like the demand for this thing, because it just feels like there's such a groundswell for it.
I honestly think it's a marketing ploy to make this movie slightly relevant, to make sure that it might actually get a little bit more money, besides, of course, not really making a lot of money. And I really think that they are doing it simply because every time that Zack Snyder has released a bigger cut of his movie, it is usually better, or at least better received by the audience. Because Watchmen, I have heard that I've never seen the original theatrical cut of Watchmen. I've only seen the long cut, and I like that one. And I've heard that the long one is way better than the theatrical cut. Same for BVS. Like, the theatrical cut was terrible, but the longer cut, 3 hours long, is a bit better. At least, like, I'm still not a fan of it, but still, I will recognize that it did a few things objectively better than the theatrical cut. So it seems to be a pattern where, if Zack Snyder has a different cut of a movie, it's probably better than the initial thing that he released. So that's why they're probably doing it. But yeah, it's a marketing ploy.
Okay, and with that line of thinking, I think this just shows a problem with Warner Brothers, and it's a problem I don't think will get better now that AT&T is the sugar daddy. But if someone makes a movie for you and it's long, just let it be long and let it be good.
And that's also one thing that they really hammered on with Justice League. We need this to be a 2-hour movie. We can't have it a minute longer, because seriously, it clocks in at 2 hours exactly, not even a minute longer. And yeah, I do think that hurts the movie. And I think if Zack Snyder had made a Zack Snyder type movie, it would have probably been 2.5 hours and probably a bit better.
Probably. And the thing is, I kind of prefer the mystery of not knowing. I kind of prefer the simple notion that we will likely never actually get to see what could have been with this movie. I'm okay with that. I'm just dandy okay with it.
Sucked, though.
Oh yeah, no, it still sucks.
But maybe a little less suckish.
Yeah, maybe we could have had some better genuine moments between the characters. Maybe that graveyard scene would have actually like hit me a little harder if we could have fleshed it out by another 5 minutes. Or
less forced comedy.
Oh god.
Because yeah, there are definitely a lot of that Whedon put in there for the sake of having Whedon type comedy, but man, it didn't work.
No. It's kind of like my beard. It just didn't really work.
Nice.
God,
no comment.
I can't wait to shave this fucking thing off. It's driving me up the wall. Anywho, let's get diving into something else that I think we're gonna have some thoughts on. So, we've been talking a lot, in the last few months about Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek movie that we still haven't really gotten any new updates on, which, honestly, can we keep it that way? Because I wasn't excited for it, as my rant from way back when would prove. Thanks for setting me up for that, Nico. I actually listened back to that episode. That was great. But apparently, Noah Hawley, the creator of the shows Legion and Fargo, and also director of Lucy in the Sky, which was a massive critical success earlier this year with Natalie Portman, Apparently, he is looking to actually take his first steps into this particular franchise and write and direct the fourth Star Trek film in the Abrams verse, with the cast actually coming back, minus Anton Yelchin. So, for obvious reason, rest in peace, brother. And can I be completely honest? Even though this guy has done nothing but great things, because Fargo is an incredible show. Legion, I haven't gotten around to it, but I've heard literally nothing but just uber praise for it. I could not care less. Case?
Aww. I want this movie. I've wanted this movie since Beyond. Like, seriously. I love the Kelvin movies, Kelvin timeline. And I think that I want another Star Trek movie, and I want more in this with this new cast, because I think the new cast is really good, and I think they can do a lot, especially now that they have a new reset of timeline that you can play around in. And I know that Abrams a while ago said that he had plans for this movie and then didn't go, but I just want another Star Trek movie in the Kelvin timeline, because I very much enjoy them.
Here, Nico, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so you said you didn't watch Legion. I actually watched the first couple episodes, and I'll say it was one of the weirdest shows I've ever seen, and I kind of just fell off of it. But the people who stayed on had a lot of great things to say about it. So it's always been one of those things where I've been like, I feel like at some point in my life I'm going to revisit this show and watch it in its entirety and realize I maybe jumped off too soon. So given the amount of praise that this particular writer has gotten, writer, director, Noah Hawley, whatever his position is, I feel like he might be the right guy for the job, at least from a grander perspective. And yeah, like TV is doing a lot of great work that movie people should take a lesson from. So maybe that's the shot in the arm that's the Kelvin timeline. As for, we haven't seen a script yet, so who knows what this.
And as Nico slowly has some connection issues, sorry about that, guys. It's all good as he tries to fix it. You know, I'm sure. Like, here, real fast, Nico. Is it snowing out there?
It is not snowing.
Then I don't know what's going on.
What? Your connection?
You know what?
Oh boy.
So I think I know what it is. We had some people bringing in some furniture today, so they might have knocked the router around while they were moving stuff. So who knows?
Bastards. All of them.
But you can hear me now, fine.
Yeah, now you're a little better. Now you're a little better. So okay. My thing is that I just feel like we've gotten a couple of too many quote unquote similarly structured Star Trek movies, which is, you know, because like when I watch Star Trek 09 and then when I watch Beyond, I feel like I'm sort of watching similar movies with similar character arcs and, you know, whatnot. Into Darkness, for me, one of the other reasons my favorite is because it feels the most different out of the three. You know, and I'm naturally kind of drawn to quote unquote different when it comes to my Star Trek.
I actually disagree on that one. I feel that Beyond is the most different. I feel that 09 and Into Darkness kind of blend together.
Fair enough. And I guess what I'm actually kind of wanting, like, because here's the thing, am I still going to see this movie? Naturally. Am I going to see it opening night? Yeah, you better believe it. So I guess what I'm just trying to get at is, if they're going to do this, then truly give me a Star Trek movie that I have not seen before. You know, and I kind of wish, and speaking of, I remember a while back, Nico, you pitched that if we were to continue in this in Star Trek the Abrams verse, let's time jump. Let's skip ahead to next gen. Let's see how that crew goes about their business now that the events of Star Trek 09 happened.
But by the way, would it be the case where that crew, well, because of
what was captained by Wesley Crusher?
Yeah, like stuff would change, and like Geordi LaForge would be a woman or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see, like, how would it be different with the next generation crew in the Kelvin timeline?
Yeah.
I broke up again, didn't I?
For a brief second, but now you're back. So we'll just kind of play this one by ear. You know, and I guess that's just kind of where I'm getting at. Like, I'm just nervous. But look, the guy's track record is superb. I'll put my trust in him now. I'll pay it forward. I just don't want him to let me down, which I think is a fair thing to say. Moving on to the next.
I just got an idea. What if they do Star Trek Generations but do it right? And what I mean with this is that we have some kind. Well, in Generations you have the Nexus, which essentially makes sure that there is no time and space, and suddenly Picard and Kirk are able to meet up. What if we expand that concept to what if the old crew meets the new crew through I don't know what, some kind of space anomaly?
And if you want to get real fun with that, here's how you do it. Let's have that be the quote unquote convergence of both the Kelvin timeline and the Prime timeline.
And hell, you could even have like a tie-in to the Picard series. What? That face you just made shows that I'm onto something.
You could be onto something. That could be a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay, Ingle. Okay, we please Ingle, so that's the important thing here. Clearly. All right.
Please Ingle. Wait, we did something wrong.
Damn it. All right, moving on to the next story. Okay. So I'm actually kind of glad that I got quote-unquote exposed to this little bit of news that dropped over in the UK, where moving forward, they now will be setting up quote-unquote guidelines to help them better shoot any scenes of nudity or sexual intercourse between, characters, because I'm aware that as, someone who does pay attention to behind-the-scenes stuff of how movies are made, sometimes the most uncomfortable scenes can be, love-making scenes or nudity scenes. And let's just face facts. No actor or actress should have to feel uncomfortable by that. Because, it's still, it can be like an important part of a piece. Like, for example, I think, honestly, you take away any of the sex or nudity from Eva Green in The Dreamers, then you pretty much have no movie. Because the whole movie is literally about a love triangle. And yes, the director made it very explicit with the nudity and the sex. But, luckily, all the actors were actually pretty okay with it. Because the director knew how to work with that. But that's not always the case. So I'm actually glad that this is now happening in the UK, and hopefully the US can start picking up a hint from this. Guys, do you think that the US should start I'm not going to use the word regulating, but I'd say give quote unquote guidelines to how directors should make love scenes moving forward?
Is this a question of the chat or to us?
Well, to everyone.
It's to everyone. I have nothing to say about this, honestly.
So, I'm going to bring a wrestling reference in and then sort of tie it back to what's happening here. So there's a wrestler by the name of David Starr. He's a Jewish American, but he does a lot of wrestling in the UK, and he's very progressive, and he's been helping with the unionization of the British independent wrestling scene. Because with the WWE's recent takeover of the UK promotional scene with NXT UK, it's kind of made it harder for British promotions to maintain their footing. Now, it's been great for independent wrestlers in the UK, but it's been tough on the promotions. And so, like, he's just trying to make sure that everyone is well protected given the changing landscape of the business. Now that I see that the UK is also trying to set some standards and regulations for shooting nudity and sex scenes in their cinema and television realms, it shows that, like, and also sex is something that the UK doesn't consider as taboo as we do here in America. So so this is one of those things where, like, okay, we need to set some ground rules. It's perfectly fine. We'll make it par for the course, and everything will be fine in the long run. But and I think it just shows that the UK, there are some social issues that they've been behind on, but it seems like when it comes to entertainment, they're a little quicker to the punch than we are to just, like, make sure things are within the best interest of the performers.
Yeah, when it comes to separating from the union, they are also very very quick about that.
Ooh, fair enough.
And also, this is like just a year or so removed from when the Harvey Weinstein scandal came to light.
Yeah,
So like, they obviously, if an actor feels uncomfortable doing something, then something needs to happen to make sure they're comfortable, or they just don't do the thing that's uncomfortable that they're being asked to do. Harvey Weinstein, he was a guy who wouldn't take no for an answer, and now he's in a lot of hot water for it. If Hollywood was like that, it would be a much better place. But no, there are just too many people who, like, want to have their way.
Fair enough. And speaking of Hollywood wanting to have their way.
Oh dear.
No, not yet. Just getting it out, just to sort of tease it, because yes, they are coming.
I might do a rant on that one.
Oh yes, but again, not yet. So apparently, even though back in 1948, Paramount Pictures tried to essentially start creating a little bit of a monopoly on movie theaters, and thanks to Congress, they were not able to. Good job. Guess what our current Congress, some certain members of a certain political party are trying to remove? They're trying to remove that standard so that way now major motion picture studios can buy big movie theater chains and basically just play their movies. Fuck you. It's different when Netflix bought literally 2 theaters that are unrelated to each other, bought 2 privately owned theaters, just one in New York, one in LA. Sorry?
Netflix is a little different.
Exactly. But the fact that, Warner Brothers could potentially own all of Marcus Theaters, or the fact that Disney could potentially own all of AMC Theaters, or the fact that...
By the way, that's going to happen.
Oh, it fucking better not. Well, legally they can't. But again, certain members of a certain political party, Republicans, are trying to take this away. This isn't good. At all. So, to all of you who think this is a good idea, fuck off. Anyone got any thoughts?
I for one welcome our mousy overlords. That's all I have to say.
The Republican Party needs to go away. Like lobbying needs to go away. The Republican Party needs to go away. Like they've made it their motto to basically say, here's what's in your best interest when really it's in the best interest of them, and convinces the dumbest people in the country to vote against their interests. And it's maddening to me. And like please elect a progressive to office in 2020. I'm begging you, people.
Recently we were watching TV and Family Guy was on, and there was such a on-point joke about Republicans. It's the episode where Brian takes a lot of women home because there's a time machine. And then at one point he sees that the years traveled are way higher than it was, and he tries to turn it back, and suddenly time goes backwards. And Brian is then watching a Republic versus Democrat argument on TV, and he says, "This is so weird watching TV like this, because a Republican will say something, and then afterwards the commentator will ask a completely unrelated question."
I remember that joke. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that.
I mean, the impeachment hearings this week kind of went the exact same way. They were given a bunch of information, and then they asked questions completely irrelevant to what they were just told.
Well, speaking of people who won't be living in the White House for too much longer, Kees, I got a question for you. You happen to quite like Don't Breathe, yes?
Yeah, it was a good movie. There was a movie where I actually liked a horror movie.
Yay! And you would say that you at least, now that you've seen The Shining, you really come to at least appreciate it as a film, correct?
Yeah.
Now, here, so let me...
According to the Cool Guy group, it is the greatest horror movie of all time.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue against that. So here, let me pitch this to you. Let's do essentially Fede Alvarez wants to direct a Shining-like story, but set in the White House.
Is it going to be about Trump losing his mind?
A Trump-like character, most likely.
Yes, please.
I might apply to be an extra in this movie just so I can take out my political frustrations on somebody. Oh, God, yes. Like seriously, I want to be one of the killers in this movie just so I can take out some frustrations on real people. Let me be in this movie. I'm begging you. I've been paying attention to politics for way too long now that I really need to release this rage.
Here's your resume.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Seriously, Fede, this guy right here. Sign him on for your movie. Get him in it. Let's make this happen. Nico Regoli for White House Shining movie. I want to see this now. Jesus Christ.
Come play with me, Devin Nunes. Come play with me.
He will be the long-lost child, Nico Torrance.
Yes. Oh, God.
Dear Engel, why?
Yes, I love this. Okay, so Engel says, his toupee comes to life to strangle us all, and we find out it's an alien possessing him, trying to end human life as we know it. I think that would explain a lot. But
so essentially, also, what if the Inhumans Medusa turned on? What if her hair turned on her?
So what I'm just wondering, is this the Thing or Alien?
Ooh, snap!
I don't know what you would consider Donald Trump. Like, he could probably be considered both, but either way, he should not be running the country.
No.
Well,
no. And so with that, we have one final news story. And ladies and gentlemen,
there we go.
If you know this little song and dance, come join me. Grab your popcorn and grab your drinks because it's Red time! In fact, you know what, Nico? Do you want first crack at this?
Set me up. Set me up.
Oh, I shall gladly. Okay, so recently, there's this wonderful little biopic about one of the most important and influential black women in not just the history of America, but arguably the history of the world. Harriet Tubman, who helped rescue dozens, if not hundreds, of slaves who were living in terrible conditions in the South, and she helped rescue them to get them across the Mason-Dixon line by whatever means she could. And thank God she was able to pull it off. Because with those accomplishments, she's cemented herself as truly one of the great women of all time.
Did you say she was black?
I did say she was black. And how funny, though, because, according to the writer of the recent Harriet biopic, when he first pitched the movie, there was a certain actress that the studio exec wanted to use. And guys, guess who it was? Christian's childhood crush, Julia Roberts. Nico, take it away.
What is wrong with you? Why? Why would you? Listen, I know you have a history, Hollywood, of casting white people as non-white characters. But this is not one of those characters you should do. Granted, you shouldn't have done it with the others to begin with. But seriously, this is like Birth of the Nation shit. Why would you do that? Why would you even consider that? It's problematic enough that from what I've heard, because I haven't seen the actual movie that got released, but it's bad enough that I heard that it was sort of another white savior movie, and the British black actress you cast really didn't have a good understanding of what the Underground Railroad and its importance was. But you, why? Seriously, what is wrong with you? People will notice. People will notice. You would go broke if you actually went through with that. Because people would boycott that movie left and right. And keep in mind that several decades ago, protests weren't as considered taboo as they are now. So the protests would work. The boycotts would work. Your movie would go nowhere if you... I'm so freaking pissed off. I don't even know if I'm making sense right now. Chris, take over a little bit. I need to breathe.
Fair enough. Actually, Kees, do you have any thoughts about this?
I don't even get how this is a thing. Like how can one possibly think that a non-black woman is able to play a black woman in today's day and age? Like, what kind of crack are you on, and can I have some?
I mean, and here's the best part. Here's the fucking best part of all of this. Now, the same Hollywood exec who, unfortunately has to remain nameless because nobody wants to actually oust this fucking idiot. You want to know what he actually said when he was like, oh no, I want to cast Julia Roberts. Oh, people don't know who Harriet Tubman is. They don't know what she looked like. Fuck you! There are portraits. There are paintings. There are museums. There are statues of her fucking everywhere.
Mr. Hollywood exec, this is an electrified racket where you can catch flies and other bugs with. You know what you can do? You can stick this up your ass and activate it.
Thank you, because I'm like the insults write themselves. How could you possibly fucking think, even 25 years ago, this would have been acceptable in any form or fashion when it straight up fucking wouldn't? Like, okay. So I know I went off, a little crazy 2 weeks ago about the whole James Dean thing, but this is just another level of fucking insult. Because, okay, now, if you write a fictional character who you want to have, be a person of color, but you wind up casting a white person, just on name or star power, okay, That's douchey, but fair enough. This was a real fucking person. Show them some fucking respect. Like, you know, you're not going to cast Chris Pratt to play Coach Boone in Remember the Titans. You're not going to cast fucking Winston Duke to play King George III. No, when you are doing a historical piece, fucking cast it correctly. Is that too much to fucking ask? Fuck! Whew. Yeah.
Hollywood, you're fucking dumb.
You really are.
Hollywood, you're so fucking dumb. And cast me in that frickin' White House Shining movie so I can take out my frustrations. Why would you even think this is okay? Because it's not. It's
no. It's not.
So
Okay.
I'm curious to know what JTE thinks about this, if he's even heard the story.
You know, just for the sake of not wanting to get too much more crazy, I kind of want to just drop this and forget about it. Like, as you know, and of course keep it in the back of my mind because, you know, shit like this is going to happen unless we call the people out on their shit as it happens, which, thank Christ, this didn't happen in 1994.
Here's one more thing, though.
Please.
Because if it did happen, there would have been people who called out the studio on this. A lot of them, if not all of them, would have been black. But because of the times, they would have just been ignored. Because, again, the people in power were all white. Like, if you were a black person who got into the powerful section of Hollywood or the powerful section of government around that time, you were like a unicorn. You were, like, now it's a little more normal for someone who doesn't look like the three of us to be in power. But back then, there were very, very few people in positions of power, and so because of that, anyone who didn't look like us would have just been pushed to the side because of money, and that's terrible.
That's right. I forgot. What made them think that this was a good idea to begin with? Oh, well, to quote our favorite movie, the Tom and Jerry movie, but we've got to have money.
Wait. I've not actually seen the Nostalgia Critic review of that. Wow, that movie's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen the movie, but wow.
Oh, no, I made myself sit through that thing.
You poor soul.
Thank you.
Soul.
Thank you. So, yes.
Pain.
The pain was pretty bad. But, yes. Woosa, woosa, woosa. That was fun, wasn't it?
We need a commercial break to cool down, don't we?
It's funny I mentioned it. I think we do too. So, yes, guys, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and as soon as we are back, we'll be joined by the one, the only, Mr. Josh Tapia, a.k.a. the littlest of evils, JTE. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I'll do one final run-through of everything coming, and then we'll close out the show. So, next year, we will have a Schmodown recap show in the styling of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and Trevor Noah. Next year, we will also have Nights of the Podcast, a weekly Star Wars show where we talk about the stuff coming up, but then we also love to goof around and have fun. We have Crisis on Earthplex 2.0 under a different name, but that's cool. Look forward to it. It's going to be a great time for all of you guys. Downtuned Dissection. It'll be back better than ever and rebranded, restructured, and seriously, guys, it's going to be awesome. And then, of course, we're going to have our watch-alongs where we're going to sit down, watch a movie, and we're going to just grow from it. We're going to talk about it in addition to our recaps, which you'll see a lot more of, our reviews, which you'll see a lot more of, reactions, which you'll see a lot more of, including Schmodown, movies, trailers, TV, all that fun stuff. And, of course, every Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Central, we'll be live talking shop on the Who Cares Anyway podcast. And please, guys, subscribe to the podcast feed. Because hashtag Podern Family, hashtag Film Twitter, and seriously, guys, if you're really good at social media and you just want an extra account to promote, talk to me. Because we need someone who can really help spread the love for our podcast feed. And welcome back to the second half of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. Apologies for the technical difficulties, guys. I misread the contact handle for our guest tonight because I'm an idiot. It happens. But yes, as I mentioned, he is here tonight. You guys know him as the littlest of evils. You know him as, the artist formerly known as JTE. But I prefer to think of him as JTE Movie Thinks. Please welcome to the show, Josh Tapia, a.k.a. JTE. Dude, what is up? How are you doing tonight? And thank you for being here.
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm loving these views. So let's see. We got an Empire Strikes Back poster behind this guy. Pretty great. I'm not sure what's behind this guy's shoulder. Looks like cat eyes almost. What the heck is that?
That is a How to Train Your Dragon toothless tail.
Oh, okay, got it. How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, it's dark. And there's so much going on in yours. We got your laundry. I see a clipboard.
A printer. Yeah.
Are you like in a? It looks like you're in a closet of like a Target or something. Where are you? Is this?
No,
like the employee lounge.
I'm just in my office.
It's the office. You know what? I feel okay. I was worried it was your bedroom, but if it's your office, hey, the fact that you have an office is pretty great.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky that I have that available to me. But obviously there's a couple things I want to I want to have you on for, because obviously, awesome. your legacy in the Movie Trivia Schmodown is unprecedented. It's unparalleled. Mm-hmm. And what I actually want to get into before we even break into the Movie Trivia Schmodown talk, I would like just to ask something a little personal.
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually lie to Ken about where you were from?
Oh, be like when I first broke into Schmoes?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't lie where I was from. I just lied where I was living at the moment.
Okay.
I'm from Connecticut, born and raised. When I met Ken, I was thinking about moving back to LA, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to. I wanted to, but I wasn't sure if I was going to. And so I flew out. My sister was already living there, and I crashed with her for like a couple weeks. And in that week that I was crashing in LA, I went and met Ken. And they were under the, presumption that I lived in LA at the time. But I wasn't. I was planning on coming back, but I wasn't living there exactly at that time.
Okay. Because that's always something, like, as someone who would consider himself an old school Schmoes No fan, I was very curious about what those particular juicy details were. So
in Hollywood, you got to fake it till you make it sometimes. I can't tell you how many jobs where I put on stuff I wasn't even familiar with. Like, do you know how to use Adobe effects? And I was like, sure. And then if I got the job, I would just stay up the night before watching YouTube tutorials. But that's what you got to do in LA. You can't turn down work. If someone's like, are you good at this? You just shake your head. Yes, I am. And then when you get to the job, you fake it till you make it.
Okay. If I may, a couple months ago, I was actually at a leadership conference, and in the topics of job interviews, that's exactly what they said. Is like, if they ask you, do you have this skill? Say yes.
Yeah.
Because if you want the job, that's going to increase your chances of getting the job, is just saying yes.
Of course. And if it's something that you really want, you're going to learn whatever they want you to learn anyway. So if they're like, hey, do you be able to do this? If you're really that desperate or passionate to get the job, you will say yes, and then you will use that weekend, 2 days to a week, 2 weeks, to learn everything you can to make sure when you do show up, you know exactly what you're doing. So, again, I've lied on plenty of resumes, and I got the jobs, but when I showed up, I did my job.
Well, and it certainly worked out for you because, when I think of everything that the channel formerly known as Schmoes Know accomplished, you're always right up there as far as one of the first names I'll think of. Obviously you think of Mark and Christian, but then my mind will always go to all of the shenanigans involved with yourself, whether it was the infamous Triceratops, Taurus Tops, or something like that, like,
Or Mark's perfect game.
Yeah, or Mark's perfect game. Like, and I'm gonna ask this as sincerely as I can.
Mhm.
What's the best part about being a beloved meme from some of those early moments?
Oh, it's just fun. It just brings back great memories. When we first started Schmoes Little Podcast, it was me, Mark, Christian. Ken's first job as a producer was to hire me. And at that point, Riley wasn't part of the show. Makuga wasn't part of the show. Tiffany had just been guest hosting. When I started, it was still Katie Sackhoff basically hosting. So when I see those memes, every time I see anything, it just brings me back to that time where it was less of a job and more of a bunch of people who love movies getting together once a week and just having a great time. So whenever I see those memes, it really just brings back great memories.
Awesome. Now something else that was on my mind, and just to completely derail the conversation involving Schmoes, because again, we'll come back to that,
Okay.
But I feel like you and I gotta hash this out super fast.
Okay,
How in the hell did you actually like Midway?
Oh, Midway. Oh, you know why? I'll tell you why. And I have no problem defending this. It is not a great movie. It is by no means a bad movie. It is almost $100 million budget war film that does not have A-listers, doesn't worry about a love story, doesn't worry about, Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett and somebody else having a three-way over-romanticized relationship. It is just literally like a History Channel movie given a much bigger budget. The characters are paper thin, but the movie is not about the characters. To me, it was like a game of chess. I was curious to see what the actual Battle of Midway entailed, and I felt like I walked out of the movie knowing more than I did before and being entertained for the most part.
Fair enough. And yes, I honestly can say I really did not like it because personally for me, I felt like it was trying to be two stories that had no purpose working off each other. Like, for example, Ed Skrein. I actually liked his performance. I liked what he was doing, essentially as the World War II version of Maverick. And I appreciated that. I liked that. But then you also had Patrick Wilson and his whole story of, like, trying to outwit Admiral Yamamoto. I'm forgetting the actor's name. It's fine. And I like that story. Like, I liked both stories individually, but trying to mesh them together just made an unfocused mess for me.
See, when you say that, it's not like they share almost no screen time. To me, those are just two different aspects of the wars being fought, with the brawn and the brain. And to me, it was interesting to see a little bit more behind the scenes of what was going on before they actually went into battle. So to me, like when you say they didn't work together, they weren't together except for maybe one scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, and
like it was just like another aspect of the war that was being told to me. It's like any of these movies where they just jump around. It's like, and Roland Emmerich does this a lot with his, Day After Tomorrow, 2012. It's not always just one character. It's let's go see the president. Let's go see the scientist. Let's go see what the family is doing. So like he used that kind of structure, but instead of it just being some random, John Cusack driving a limousine, it's a guy who's trying to decode Japanese, airships. And I think they did a great job of showing the Japanese side, which Michael Bay did a teeny bit in Pearl Harbor. But in this one, I really felt like I got to know a little more of the general. And I love the opening scene where they're actually working together before the war. Because you got to remember, Japan was super nice to us. I think like a month before Pearl Harbor got attacked, they offered us like a peace prize at the White House. Like they visited us. So to me, I just like that aspect of it. Again, I don't think it's a great movie. I'm not telling you to run out and spend your money, but if it's on Netflix and you like old school war films like A Bridge Too Far and some of these older films where it's really just about the military strategy and nothing about the characters trying to like overcome personal demons, that's really all it was for me, and that's kind of why I enjoyed it, because I don't see too many movies like that.
And that's fair. Like, I guess just for me, like, because I actually do agree with you. It's just that CGI looked like ass.
Really? I mean, it's not great, but it wasn't. I mean, I've seen much worse. Maybe I've just seen much worse. And, listen, I know he didn't have the budget of Michael Bay, which I will give Michael Bay some props. He does a lot of practical effects in that Pearl Harbor movie. There's actually planes flying by. But at the same time, knowing what they had to do in this movie, it was good enough for me to be like, okay, good enough.
And that's fair. I guess I'm just a little more harsh in that department than some people are. Like, and like if it's too noticeable, then I'll make a point about it. If it's not really that noticeable, then I won't really care. And just for me, it was just a little too noticeable, especially during the actual Pearl Harbor attack, where I'm like, oh man, this makes Deepwater Horizon look like
that was like 2 minutes. Like the Pearl Harbor attack happens within a few minutes. It's a catalyst for the rest of the movie. Also, like this guy made this movie independently outside of the big studio system.
True.
This ain't Dunkirk. This ain't Nolan with giving all the money in the world to do whatever he wants. He really had to, kind of put this money together himself, and I give him credit for that. And I don't think it's going to be a breakout hit, but I'm hoping he at least breaks even, and once it hits Blu-ray, it breaks even, or maybe makes a little bit of profit, just because I like seeing movies like this for the most part.
Which, yeah, and again, like, I'm not saying this to crap on Emmerich, just, again, to do an independent film outside the studio system, that's the hardest fucking thing you can do as a filmmaker, but...
Yeah, again, it was almost $100 million. It wasn't like $10 million.
Yeah, but, again, just for me, it didn't work, but, you know what, I'm glad that we could hash this out, because I saw your Twitter thing, and I was just like, did we see the same movie? So, all right.
I mean, my expectations were, like, I hope this isn't awful.
Same.
Right? So it wasn't awful. I was like, that was entertaining. I learned a lot of stuff. I'm a kind of a history buff, so I was able to take some stuff away from it and maybe put some of my own knowledge into it. But so for me, I could only talk about my personal experience. I had a good time.
All right. Fair enough. All right. So now, Kees, Nico, while we have our dear guest here, are there any questions you guys would like to throw his way?
Kees, you can go first.
Sure, I have nothing prepared, so I have no idea. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm just listening.
Fair enough. Oh no.
I don't have anything.
I do have a question, and it's sort of a sensitive subject, but I want you to take us back to that day where you got on a certain scooter.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what do you want to know?
Everything.
What the hell happened?
I mean, I wish it was more dramatic. I wish I could give you a story like I was chasing a robber or something. If you've ever been in LA, there are these bird scooters everywhere. Like, they took over LA. South Park did a whole episode on them, which I thought was hilarious because it's really what it is. The things they'll tell you is these things are made with little to no. The wheels are basically, they feel like they're just, it's not much farther than like a stone being carved into a wheel. There's no, if you hit anything, you're going to fall down. Like, you cannot like hit something and just be like, oh, what was that? You hit anything. It's almost like you have to be on a bowling alley to able to ride one of these things. So yeah, I was just riding one and I'm still not 100% sure what I hit, but I was probably going faster than I should have. And I just hit something on the curb, between a curb and the street, and I fell. And I think I put my arm out to break my fall, but instead it like dislocated my arm to the point where like this went that way to where it wasn't supposed to be. And because that happened, instead of my fall being braced, I hit it with my mouth first, knocked out 2 teeth. I was bleeding all over the place. It was rough. It was by far the worst accident I've ever been in my life. I've never broken a bone before. I've never broke a tooth before. So it was a shock. The ambulance came, and I was actually pretty controlled and calm. Like, I called my mom, I called my girlfriend, and I was like, I broke my arm and I knocked 2 teeth out, but I'm okay. Surprisingly, I was pretty okay about it. It sucked. If it ever happens to anybody, you'll understand. Today, my right shoulder is still not 100%. Like, I used to play basketball with Mark Ellis and a lot of my friends back in LA. Now, I still have to rehab my shoulder a little bit because I can't quite put the touch on it.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, then.
I'm driving a bird scooter.
I have something. Because that was the reason that you couldn't compete in last year's team tournament.
Yeah.
But I honestly, up until the match actually happened, I kind of forgot that you weren't in this tournament, and I wonder what happened that you couldn't compete.
Have you ever heard I have moved out of LA since? So
it's essentially
no
why,
longer-
Case, you couldn't be in the fandom teams tournament this past summer. Well,
there you go.
the official reason.
No,
anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, if I was still in LA, I'd still be doing it. I love the Schmodown. It's so much fun. But it's got to the point where I'm just too far. It'd be a plane ride just for me to go there to fight.
We've seen you play with both Jeff Snyder and we've seen you play with Lon Harris. Now we obviously know which one you had more success with, but you've also played with Tom Dagnino as well.
Yeah,
so, like,
that was my first teammate.
Well, so we know which team you've been the most successful in, but which was the funnest partner of the three that you've had?
Well, I mean, again, me and Lon, I think we could have been a great team. I think we could have run the whole thing. We just life got in the way. I mean, Jeff, obviously, success makes everything funner. So it's hard to not say Jeff. But, you know, Tom Dagnino is a great friend of mine, and anytime I could hang out with Tom, it was always a great time. And, yeah, I was carrying a little bit more I was obviously carrying the team a little bit. But it was awesome when I would be carrying the team that I wouldn't know something, and somehow Tom would know it. And it's like, oh, my God, we just won this because you pulled out an answer that I didn't know. So that was a lot of fun. We went to the finals against the Schmoes, and we lost to the Schmoes, but we beat a lot of good teams to get there with Tom, and that was our first team, so that was a lot of fun. But again, a year and a half with Jeff, I mean, there's too many highs, very little lows. So the most fun was definitely with Jeff because we just kicking ass.
Don't understate the performance that you put up against Schmoes, because Schmoes got Star Wars. Around that time was kind of your Achilles heel. Opponents getting Star Wars, and you guys actually got really close to beating them.
Yeah, it was really close. I think we were one question away.
Yep. I mean,
Exactly.
Provided that they would have missed their 5-pointer, but yeah, like.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I do remember watching that match and being just so thoroughly impressed. Because, you know, did I really want to take B.O.B. seriously? No, because that was kind of the, you know, the running joke ish in the Facebook group at the time, you know. But somehow you guys did it. Like, you managed to pull it off as far as being taken seriously. Now, so yeah, to serious back into Schmodown, like, honestly, talk me through being there when it was all starting to come together, like from your first match against Cobster to sort of to that first team's tournament, like, and the legacy that you were already starting to build. Like, did you feel you were becoming the quote unquote movie trivia celebrity out of everyone?
No, again, back then we were just a bunch of friends getting together and like, let's try this. Let's see if this would be fun. For me, and I think you could ask most of the OG Schmoes crew, when we would finish a show, we would all go hang out, have dinner, and we would, you know, hang out on the weekends, and we would always be talking movies. And I think once the first tournament came around, it was like, oh, I get to show what I'm made of here. I'm not just a guy in the background, you know, hitting buttons or grabbing drinks. I know as much or if not more than Christian, Mark, Riley. Like, it was more like, yeah, you get with a bunch of friends or brothers and you get in something competitive and you think you could win. You just want to kick their asses. So, like, you want those bragging rights. So anytime you went and hung out at, like, Chili's afterwards, you'd be like, I beat you. You know, it's just a very brotherly competition. Yeah. So that's what I think about it. It was really just us coming together and having fun, really. It was Christian's idea. I'm pretty sure Christian and Ellis both pretty much came up with it after we had like a trial run with Copster just for fun. And we're like, why aren't we just doing this like a tournament and kick each other's ass, see who could be the best, and basically who could have the bragging rights. And I came so close.
Oh, so close indeed. Which, you know, and I'm trying to remember, you lost to Riley the first time around.
Yeah, and I lost on a Jean-Claude Van Damme question, which when I heard it was a Jean-Claude Van Damme question, I was like already doing a victory lap in my mind. I was like, this is going, because Riley was not, he knows Jean-Claude, but he was like, oh no. And I was like, yes. Because I've seen every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, so I was pretty prepared. But the question was tough. It was like, what was the team in the movie Sudden Impact? What was the home team? Because the whole movie takes place like Die Hard during a hockey game.
Yeah.
And I could tell you so much about that movie. but like I could not remember what the home team was, and I was just like, oh, any other Jean-Claude Van. It really felt like a sports question in a lot of ways than it did a Jean-Claude question, but that's the roll of the dice.
I mean, shit, if they'd asked like a double team question, sure, I could nail that, but,
Yeah. I've seen Sudden Impact. What's the hockey team? That was like the least thing I was, pay attention to when I watched that movie.
Yeah. And, and actually, if you would continue to indulge, and you've mentioned that you've seen every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Pretty much.
And you've also made sure that we all know that you've seen pretty much every Stallone movie, every Schwarzenegger movie, and every Steven Seagal movie.
Pretty much, yep. I mean, everything but after their straight-to-DVD stuff. We're talking when they were in their heyday. Once they all went straight DVD, I skipped most of those.
Fair enough, because, most of it was...
it's garbage.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But here then, honestly, if you could...
Mm-hmm.
What is some of that appeal that I personally haven't really gotten from most of those films? Because here's the thing, I've seen most Stallone, I've seen most Schwarzenegger, and while I think some of it is good, obviously, your Terminators, your Rockies, your Rambos, well, okay, your First Bloods anyway, because part 2 and 3, but what am I just not getting about some of that stuff?
That's a hard question because I'd have to examine you as a person. I can only tell you, like, as a kid, like, listen, I just like the action movies. And Seagal and Van Damme, they both brought a different sensibility to their own action films. Seagal is not, like, the most jacked dude. He looks pretty, like, basically has a dad body for the most part. But he just had a certain style, almost like a teeny bit of Clint Eastwood type, like, attitude with him. And the way he brought judo into action was just really cool. Van Damme is just like a specimen who could do splits and roundhouse kicks. But back in the days, they don't really do this anymore. The movies like Time Cop, Under Siege, they were giving these guys who were action stars big budget movies. They weren't IPs. They weren't like, The Rock's not doing Fast 6. They were doing big budget action films. Like Andrew Davis, the guy who went on to direct The Fugitive, did Under Siege, and he teamed up with Seagal. Like that, something that would never really happen today. I feel like If it did, it would be a $20 million Angel Has Fallen kind of movie. Angel Has Fallen is like them trying to do those kind of movies, but with a very small budget. Back then, they gave them the full Hollywood blockbuster budget. That's why I love movies like Cliffhanger, Die Hard. I mean, you go to like Total Recall and Predator. Like you're getting these big budget action films with these big budget action stars that we're not really getting unless it's IP today. So for me, I think just part of it is growing up around that time, obviously. I think growing up in the 80s, 90s, that was just something that was the thing. That was the cool thing at the time. Also, like as a chubby little kid, they were like superheroes to me. Like you look at Captain America and the Hulk and Iron Man, kids today are like, those are superheroes. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, those guys were superheroes, man. I could barely do a sit-up as a kid, and Rocky's like lifting chairs and running up mountains, and he has like an 18-pack, and I'm just like, to me, that is like being a superhero, because I couldn't imagine getting my body anywhere close to where those guys were. So for me, it was a lot of, just kind of like they were my superheroes.
I can relate to that a little bit because I was I looked like them when I was 12 years old because I put in so much work athletically to try and be like them. Like I wanted to be Rocky, and like I wanted to be a cage fighter when I became this age. Haven't fulfilled that dream, hence why I'm doing this for a living instead. But like they were my inspirations, and so like I was like trying to kick like Van Damme. I was trying to look like Stallone in the Rocky films and everything in between. So I get completely what you're talking about. Yeah,
so you took it to the next level where you actually tried to do it. I just watched and said, I can't do that, so I'm just going to watch these guys do it. So I tried to live my action fantasies through them, basically.
Nice. Yeah, and that was kind of me watching Star Wars growing up. Like, I'd see all these great Jedi fights, whether it was in the original trilogy or in the prequels, and I'd be like, I want to learn how to do that. So,
That's interesting because, like, Luke Skywalker's not buff or anything. He's just like a regular dude with a light sword. Imagine if Luke went to fight Vader, and then Vader's like, "Let's do this." And before Skywalker like turned on his lightsaber, he just went and had like a 16-pack. It was all oiled up in baby oil. Van Damme would be like, "Oh shit, this is gonna be a fight." But no, he's just a kid with a lightsaber.
You know, it would be even more hilarious is if, like, he had taken off his shirt before the training sessions with Yoda, and he didn't look like that, and then after the training sessions with Yoda, and he starts the battle, and he looks like an Adonis Greek god. Like that would be hilarious. Like, how did you get that thick in some few days?
It was the 80s. Why didn't that happen? Did anybody in Star Wars have muscles?
Oh yeah. No. I would definitely say Ewan McGregor had some good muscles to him. Obviously, Ray Park as Darth Maul. I'm talking like
old school trilogy.
Oh,
Chewbacca. He was the buffest of them all.
That's true.
Yeah.
You shave that thing down, he's probably like a stallion. Yeah.
Well,
muscles
fair, if you see the behind the scenes stuff that Jonas does these days for Chewbacca, that's crazy. He is extremely athletic.
True. Yeah, that's good point.
Well, I mean, and it's kind of especially funny because he's like, he is like 7 feet 2 inches tall, and you don't normally picture dudes that tall being that in shape and that built, but
and agile.
Yeah, especially. Oh dear Lord, yeah, because the guy who plays the Mountain on Game of Thrones, he sure as fuck wasn't nimble.
It's it's funny. Like growing up, I was always more of an Indiana Jones guy than I was a Star Wars guy. I mean, nice. Harrison Ford, obviously, in both. But again, it goes back to, like, Harrison Ford being, like, this hero who's larger than life. To me, Luke never really got there. Even in Return of Jedi, when he shows up and he's, like, super confident and, like, I can take all you mofos out, I just never really bought it. I was like, yeah, okay, you're trying to act really cool here, like you're a badass Jedi. Not 100% buying it. But Temple of Doom, say what you will with that movie, when there's some hero shots that Spielberg puts in there where Harrison Ford just looks like the hero of all heroes. And to me, I think that's what I just was more drawn to as a kid, the larger-than-life heroes. Whereas Luke is more of like, it's a kid.
I actually see that.
Then I do wonder, if you're so into Indiana Jones, how did you miss Reggie?
Okay, well, listen, I love Indiana Jones. But at this point, like that, my brain can only hold so much information.
Yeah,
that seems like one of the least things I would ever have to remember.
Oh, that's true.
I will say this: I watched Temple of Doom and Crusade much more than I did Raiders. But as I got older, I now like Raiders more. I think as a kid, Temple of Doom is probably as a kid is just more fun and kind of weird. And as I got older, I went from, like, Temple's my favorite to, like, no, Raiders is the best. And then I go Crusade, then I go Temple, and then a fourth one doesn't exist as far as I know.
Am I the only one willing to acknowledge the fourth? I'm willing to acknowledge it.
I have it in my Blu-ray case, and it's a coaster at this point. I don't even take it out.
I mean, I acknowledge it, and I acknowledge that, like, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. Like, it's not Jaws the Revenge level of bad.
No.
But
Spielberg had too much money for it to be that.
But I think he and Lucas should have done another couple passes on the script in terms of just how crazy they wanted to go with it.
Well, it's essentially where Kingdom of the Crystal Skull it's like the prequels. They needed more people to actually look at it and say, okay, do that, don't do that, and stuff. Because I really feel like it was just George Lucas doing whatever the hell he wanted to do, and it really got screwy. Because I think Crystal Skull's okay. I can watch it. But yeah, the original trilogy of Indiana Jones movies is arguably one of the best trilogies, besides Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Yep. It's a really fun one. So, yeah, if you then get this, then it's a big step down.
Kinda, yeah. Especially the monkeys. Fuck the monkeys.
It's just hard to watch all three. Like, when I bought the new Blu-ray set, I watched all of them in a row. And it's like, if I don't watch the first three for a couple years and watch four, I might be like, it's not that bad. But then you go back and watch the first three, you're like, no, that fourth one's bad. Like, just by comparison, and you can't not compare it. It's Indiana Jones 4. I always said this about Live Free or Die Hard. That movie was called like Power Outage, and was it called Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard? If it was just an action movie with Justin Long and Bruce Willis, I think I would enjoy it more. But because it's a Die Hard movie, I have to compare it to the first 3 Die Hards, and it just doesn't stack up.
I like Live Free or Die Hard.
Funny enough, I actually do too, but like, and in fairness to Kees, that was actually his introduction to the Die Hard franchise, so it does hold a little bit of a special place in his heart, which, hey, honestly, that was the first Die Hard movie I saw in theaters, and I
saw Vengeance. I saw Die Hard with a Vengeance in theaters like 3 times. And that one's, I think that's the second best Die Hard movie.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Okay, I'm not a fan of it, so...
I binged all...
Are you telling me you like Live Free or Die Hard better than Die Hard with a Vengeance? Jeremy Irons over Timothy Olyphant? Is that what you're telling me?
No, Jeremy Irons is better, but I like... As a movie, I prefer Live Free or Die Hard.
And actually, I'll meet you halfway on that, where... Because if Die Hard with a Vengeance kept that alternate ending with the bazooka... Mm-hmm. Then I think it would honestly be just as good as the original.
Yeah, it's close.
But
Live Free or Die Hard is nowhere close to as good as the first Die Hard.
I mean, I'm the guy with the hot takes here, so
yeah, it's true. He is, and hey, that's what makes
it all unique. There's nothing wrong with liking Live Free or Die Hard. I like it. Like I said, I will watch up to Die Hard 4, and I can still enjoy Die Hard 4. But like I said, in my mind, I'm almost like, just enjoy it as a Bruce Willis action movie. And I think Len Wiseman is actually a really good action director.
Yeah.
And he has a really good eye when he moves the camera. So I can appreciate it as an action film. But again, I just think it's nowhere near as good as the first 3. I'll even take 2 over 4.
2? Really?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, fair enough. But well, and
it needs to be rated R.
But we can all agree.
Die Hard cannot be PG-13.
But we can all agree there is no 5th one.
No, that's pure garbage.
Wait,
I'm
exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to acknowledge that one. I'll acknowledge Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I do not want to acknowledge Die Hard with a Vengeance.
It's horrible.
It's a Good Day, Die Hard.
Good Day, Die Hard.
Yeah. Sorry. I get the subtitles mixed up.
You're trying to graduate college. It's fine.
They could have just stuck with the numbers, and I'd be fine with it.
Yeah. That would make it easier, but no, of course, we had to get all artsy-fartsy with the titles. Which unfortunately is kind of what I think happened with the Rambo films. Sorry. Because First Blood, if I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times. I think is one of the best movies of the 80s.
Oh, it's the best by far out of all the films. It's not even close. 2,
I think, is complete... Reagan propaganda, and it sucks. 3 is even worse somehow. 4, I can tolerate it. It's fine. Last Blood, and I think that's kind of where I'm getting some of the some of that sort of bias against some of the action films that just overstay their welcome, like your Terminators, your First Bloods, where the later films in those franchises kind of soured my experience with what came before. As for example, take Kees here. Terminator 2 is one of his favorite films of all time. But what's also one of his most hated films? Terminator Genesis.
I mean, it's awful. It's no surprise there.
And for me, I don't want it to, but I feel like it's starting, just how bad some of the later films got kind of hurt my overall liking of the originals.
Terminators?
Yeah.
Now, see, I gotta switch my brain where I could just be like, T2, nothing else. I watched those movies once or twice. I saw Salvation in theaters, Genesis, I saw them. I'll never think about them again. But James Cameron, I will never take away what he did with those first 2 films. They're two's like a masterpiece of action movies.
Yeah.
The first one has some special effects towards the end that really date it, but just the raw, almost independent feel it has is just so good, and it feels like a horror movie, which part 2 doesn't really.
Thank you.
Yeah. As I say, and this is your best friends moment. You two enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Harloff says this all the time. Like he likes the first one more than the second one because of that independent feel, the horror kind of aspect to it. I like 2, but again, I think it's just because I'm more of the big scale action movie type guy. And I'll never forget seeing T2 in theaters because seeing the T1000, like that broke my mind. Like, because it was groundbreaking at the time. Like nothing like that I'd ever seen. I mean, it's similar to Jurassic Park. When I saw Jurassic Park, I was like, holy shit, there's real dinosaurs. What the hell is happening here? There's only so many movies throughout my life that have been like game changers as far as special effects. And T2 is easily one of them.
Oh,
yeah.
Good Lord, yeah.
Well, I remember seeing T2, I don't know exactly when, but like in the 2000s, mid-2000s, for the first time because, well, I wasn't even born when T2 came out. But when I finally saw it, I was like, this looks amazing. This looks way better than most of the movies coming out these days. So the fact that it holds up so well, that's just phenomenal.
The dinosaurs in the first Jurassic Park still look better than any of the dinosaurs in the sequels.
Yeah.
Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, I think the dinosaurs still look better in the first movie.
Yep.
Nothing has looked as good as a T-Rex in the first Jurassic Park than any of the other films, in my opinion.
Well, and that's mostly because in the first Jurassic Park, they know when to use CGI and also how to blend practical. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need all CG. Spielberg knows how to do it. Although he forgot about that with Indiana Jones 4.
Well, and he also forgot about that in Jurassic Park 2, but
two's not as bad.
2 has a couple of good scenes, at least in terms of the practical effects with the T-Rexes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. Actually, like from the aesthetic perspective, Lost World is just as good as the first one. I just think the story and characters are so horribly botched. I'm just like, fuck you.
Hollywood finds a way.
Yeah.
Well done, sir. Well done. Yeah. No. And actually, well, so since you call yourself the big, action guy, is that how you personally would describe yourself? If let's say I were to ask you, describe yourself as a quote unquote film pundit or film critic.
Well, I think there's 2 sides to it. For the entertainment value, I go for action movies. Like, I love sci-fi films mixed with action. I think that's why I love war films, because you get that large-scale action that you would get in, like, a Terminator, but you get the actual acting and drama of, like, a serious drama, which I think the movies I really grew up loving were more character studies. I think the reason why I love the first Rocky is not because I love boxing, it's because I love that Stallone created a character that everybody kind of identified with, and it's a character study. He's in every frame of that movie. And the movies that I grew up loving, like Born on the 4th of July, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Wrestler, movies like The Wrestler, Taxi Driver, these are movies where one actor is basically carrying the weight of the movie on his shoulder. And when they do that, I'm just so impressed by it. Like Chinatown, another one with Jack Nicholson. I just love when somebody does a deep dive on a character, and I get to know that character, and I fall in love with that character. So those are the movies I really was drawn to as a kid, as far as like my film kind of geeky side. But when it comes to like entertainment, I like the action movie. I like seeing, because comedy, you watch comedy over and over again, and they're easy to watch because you know the joke, it's funny. But there's nothing really, as far as filmmaking wise, that's exciting about it to me. They're just really well written comedies, which is great. It's hard to make a comedy. But even if there's a bad movie, but they have a great action sequence that's edited, the music, the sound, and everything is just like really well done, I can still appreciate that movie on a film level, a technical level, than if it was just a bad drama. If it's a bad drama, then you just have a bunch of actors that are either not being directed well, the movie's not written well. But an action movie, if you could just film it really well. Listen, a lot of people hate Michael Bay. I get it. But you watch The Rock, you watch some of his earlier films, the reason he got famous was because he knew how to film action in a way that was exciting and kind of new and refreshing. And that's also why John Woo, I was a big John Woo fan, because he was doing something with action films that no one's done before. Hard Boiled, The Killer are classics.
Yes.
And yeah, his American movies like Face Off. Face Off is the closest to feeling like one of his films back in the day. But listen, he got chewed up by the Hollywood machine. Made some bad movies towards the end there, but his Hong Kong stuff, fantastic. So for me, the action part of it is just I love seeing the way the camera's going to move, the way the shots, the flow. Like an action movie has to have rhythm to it. If you just have people shooting guns and just cutting, it just looks kind of boring and loud. But when you have like a movie Face Off where guys are shooting all these cops and somewhere over the rainbow's playing in slow motion, it makes it more exciting and different and really cinematic.
If I may. So a few weeks ago, during one of the news portions of our show, we did a story about how there were talks of maybe rebooting or remaking Face Off, and we were having a discussion of like, should this be done at all? But if it is done, who should be in it? And like, I just kind of want your take on both of those questions.
I think whoever does it, it's the best it'll be is fine. For me, that movie is it's of its time. Like certain movies are of their time. Rocky IV was a movie of its time. You can't make Rocky IV today. It would feel like a comedy to a lot of people. But because it was made in that time and with that, just they took it serious back then. They really had a huge production budget. Face Off was a director with two actors who were at the top of their game. Both coming off like Pulp Fiction. He was coming off of winning an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas. Like these are two guys who were high demand, and they're really good actors. And originally the movie was written as a sci-fi film, but John Woo has no interest in sci-fi, so he brought it back to modern day settings. Originally it was written for Stallone and Schwarzenegger to star in. That was originally what it was written for. It was supposed to be a sci-fi movie where Arnold and Sly switched faces, but they couldn't get those two actors to agree on it. And the script was in limbo for a while. And then John Woo picked it up and was like, I'd like to do this, but I want to do it my way. And I think it's a John Woo movie from beginning to end. And if they're going to remake it, they're remaking it, in my eyes, in concept only. They're not going to try and make a movie that was like Face Off. They're just going to take the premise and do their version of it, which is what they should do, because you can't copy John Woo.
No, and honestly, I just remember being incredibly pissed because, Face Off is honestly one of my favorite movies. Period.
It's amazing.
It's and to me it's just the right blend of like it's the right blend of the terrible side of the 90s with some of the honest to God best action you're going to see in an American film. Mm-hmm. And of course, some of the acting is just beautiful, as you can only imagine. Nicolas Cage and John Travolta trying to beat each other you can get, but I just remember thinking to myself, like, don't even try to redo this movie unless all you're gonna do is just take the simple idea of having two characters swap faces, so that way one can do something as the other person, and then you can get away with that. Like hell, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There was a brilliant arc in season 4 where they did that, and it was honestly one of the best stories in that entire show.
Obi-Wan as the bounty hunter.
Yeah, as Reiko Hardin, absolutely. But again, that's how you have to do it correctly. Is do it in a way that maybe I won't even recognize. Oh, this is just like Face Off, unless you point it out to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just remember being in a rather bitchy mood that night. So thanks, Nico. Thanks for that memory.
I just wanted to know if JTE would like my. Sorry. By the way, when did that change, if I may ask? Like, when did it change from you being called JTE to going straight to just the initials of JTE?
I mean, I used to engineer for a lot of shows back in AfterBuzz days. I used to do Marvel movie news, DC movie news. I was in Box Office Breakdown. I was doing profiles, Alicia and Scott. Everybody just kind of gave me their own version of my nickname. So it just got traded around. It really depended on who I was talking to or who was saying it. So everyone had their own little way of saying it. And like Jatarvis was my name on Marvel movie news because I was the Jarvis. So like everyone had their own little nickname rendition of it. So it really just depended who was saying my name.
Nice.
Fair enough.
I like it.
Awesome. And as we start to wind this down, let's bring us back to the Schmodown real fast. And I want to start this off by simply asking, what do you personally feel is your biggest legacy in regards to the Schmodown?
I mean, it's got to be just the run me and Jeff went on. I think we had the belt for like a year and a half. We had some hard matches that went to overtime, and we still pulled it out.
Yeah.
It was just like, I remember I was watching the Shire Wolves this past year, and I was like, I loved Rachel and I love Clark, two of my favorite people. But I wasn't thinking like, I like them, I want them to win. I was like, I want them to lose because I don't want our record to be broken. It's just competitiveness really about it. So I think the legacy is just, as right now, we are the best team in the history of Schmodown until somebody could come close to running the same amount of matches in time that we held the belts. I don't want to hear nothing else about it.
Actually, then split out that for just 2 seconds. Let's say that Shire Wolves had never lost the belt, and let's say they hadn't retired after the corruption match. Let's say they had won that as well. They would have been pushing for your guys' record to become spectacular. So I'm just curious, would that have possibly talked you and Jeff into?
Yeah. I think back? I would have said, Christian, I would probably want to Jeff be like, no one's going to stop him. Maybe we should. Like, that's probably what I would have, if I was still living in LA and we were capable of doing that. Again, I don't know if Christian would let us do that or if we would have had to like work our way up, but I definitely would have been like, if they broke it or if they came close to breaking it, I would be like, all right, people are starting to question if we're the best of all time. Maybe we have to go remind everybody that we are.
I guess it comes down to what you value more, because like you obviously value the record that you set, and that's why you consider yourself, and why other people consider the Patriots to be the best a team in the Schmodown history. Others, they value the opponents who were beaten. And that's where the Shire Wolves argument comes in. Like teams like Who's the Boss, teams like The Odd Couple, just the caliber, critically acclaimed, the caliber of opponents that certain teams faced. And
that comes to opinion. I don't think those teams are that scary. I think the Shire Wolves are just that good. I think they're very good. I think if we fought them, it would be a very close match. But I think the opponents they faced I was never like, oh, we would have lost to them. I was like, yeah, they should beat them. They're not that good.
And I guess
I think it has to do with like different eras, because the Patriots competed in a time where all the teams they teamed up because they were friends. They liked each other. They wanted to team up, and that's that was also their motivation to become good, to get to a point where they wanted to get the belt, and that's why actually they faced a lot of great opponents still. But when they got to like a formed team with above the line, at least they won first, and then they lost, unfortunately. And with the Shire Wolves, they faced a lot more teams that were formed together mainly through anarchy. So it's kind of different.
So, like, what would be stronger? A team of friends who know each other in and out, know their weaknesses and strengths, or teams that just got thrown together and had to figure it out? I think the teams that knew each other would probably be tougher.
I like Kees said, it comes down to era. Like you had the Ali era, you had the Tyson era, you had the Klitschko era, and you have the Wilder era that we're in right now. So like it comes down to it. But from what I understand, like eras could collide at some point, because apparently the Patreon exhibition matches for next season are going to take more of a what if series approach. So like what if you and Clark had actually formed that team? We could get a matchup like that.
Interesting. I didn't hear about that. I didn't know about that. There's a couple of teammates. Like there were times where I was wondering, like, I bet this person would make a really good teammate. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I talked to that I thought about teaming up with. I think Clark was the only one I actually ever went out and talked to, because she's really strong in the horror genre, and that's probably one of my bigger weaknesses. And that's why I thought maybe it would work out. But it didn't. But good, because Jeff was awesome. And Jeff, I think one reason is Jeff really knows the business and some of the smaller films. Not that I don't know them, but like he had a few things that he was a little bit stronger than I wasn't. And I was stronger with the Marvel, like big budget blockbuster films more than he was, because he doesn't really get into those movies. He doesn't like those movies that much, whereas I love them. I eat them up all the time. So when it comes to Schmodown, you have to have somebody that you don't want somebody that's too similar to you, because if you have the same strengths, it's a recipe for disaster. You got to have somebody that has different likes, and it just balances the team out. I think me and Lon would have been good. Me and Lon would have been a good team, and that's one of the things I always wonder is like how far we would have went.
Yeah, because Kees, refresh me. Before you had to resubmit your bracket, you had Evil Geniuses going pretty damn far, right?
I need to check on that one because I don't know who they would have faced. I think the family. Yeah. Okay. No, I wouldn't have him going past the family. Sorry,
okay.
I'm biased.
he is biased because Andrew Guy. It's one of his favorite competitors. Fair enough. And you know what?
And I mean Drew McQueenie.
Well, true.
I mean, I've only faced Drew McQueenie one-on-one once, and
yeah.
And let's be fair here. That was one of the best singles matches of all time.
But in teams, you're behind on him. So
yes,
by one,
we were behind. I will say this: we won the first match against them.
Yeah,
they got a rematch. We lost it, and I would have loved that third match to have been a classic Schmodown match instead of an Iron Man match. Yeah. I just think you lose a lot of strategy. You lose a lot of what a regular Schmodown match is. For me, I think Iron Man matches should be more of a. If I was going to challenge somebody on our team on a one-on-one, like it should be something like I challenge you to an Iron Man match. But for team titles, I think that third match should have been a classic championship match, just like the first two, because that would have been a true end to the trilogy. I think it being an Iron Man match made it something a little different.
And that's where
it made it very much towards the strengths of Above the Line compared to you guys. I feel because they are very good at just answering questions one after another. However, they can every once in a while miss, and especially with the important questions that are worth more points than just 1 point.
See, here's where I disagree on this, and it's simply because I'm the wrestling guy out of the four of us. And so that was your third match. It's 1-1. So for the blow-off match, you need something big, like an Iron Man match, or like a Hell in the Cell, or like some sort of big stipulation to up the ante because it's the third time and possibly the last time these two teams will meet. So it just so happens that stipulation might not have been in your favor, and granted, Above the Line was able to pick that stipulation from having won the second match. Mm-hmm. But it was it did fit the narrative of it's the third match, it's the rubber match. So in typical wrestling fashion, there needs to be something big.
But my thing is, Ali and Frazier fought 3 times. They fought. Ali lost. Ali won. Then Frazier won. And it's for the third match, instead of boxing, let's do kickboxing. And then Ali and Frazier are like, "Whoa, we got a kickbox? I thought we were doing a boxing match here. All right, well we have to." Change the way we fight. It's not going to be the same. For me, there's so much strategy to the 3 rounds, the point bets. Yeah. There's just so much strategy. Whereas Iron Man match, it's log in, say the answer, log in. There's no real strategy to it. And to me, I would have liked to have had that strategy aspect.
Yeah. No, and I mean, shit, when you had the trilogy with top 10, those were classic matches each time. Now, to be fair, they didn't.
We whipped their ass.
Look, the first one is a classic because that was close, and the Patriots actually got the belt. The 2 after that, it's not even in a contest.
We destroyed them the second time.
And then
the third one, there was a lot of controversy, but we still beat them.
It's like Ortiz versus Shamrock. It's first fight was close. Second 2 fights were just blowouts.
Yeah.
But I just mean that in terms of the 2 trilogies that you guys did, the first time around it was just all classic, and then the second time around it was first 2 classic, and then the last one big stipulation. So yeah. I mean, honestly, now that I think about it, maybe that's why the final Above the Line match had to be Iron Man, just because
change it up.
Yeah.
Do you know what the plan was if you had beaten above the line in that third match? Like, because we know Ken had been getting letters from Kalinowski, and so like that was setting up the whole anarchy and corruption angles. But like, we don't really know what would have happened if you and Jeff had won.
We might have retired the team. I'm trying to remember like what we were talking about. I mean, it was a year and a half. We were beating everybody. Above line was finally giving us a challenge. We beat them the first time. Second time they beat us. I think we would have carried on maybe a little longer. Maybe eventually just said, you know what, no one's going to beat this. We're going to just go our separate ways. But again, I don't know. That was a while ago. It really, because again, we don't know who's going to win each match. So a lot of times what happens in Showdown depends on what happens with the match.
Because contrary to a minority belief, it's not fixed, people.
It's not fixed at all. I wouldn't compete if it was fixed. I don't want to compete in a fixed league. That'd be horrible. I'm too competitive.
And so obviously you had all the success in teams, but I do have to ask you an honest question.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that unfortunately your singles career didn't quite pan out that way?
I got close. I remember, like, I think I fought Riley for the championship my first year in singles.
Yeah.
Then
2016.
Yeah. The problem is, like, some of these matches, it's luck of the draw at certain points. It doesn't matter how good you are. You have to have a little bit of luck on your side. And listen, Drew entered the league. He was the guy to beat. I played him, beat him. Bibiani joined the league. He's the guy to beat. I beat him. Like, all these guys come in, and they say they're, like, the new biggest thing. And they, for some reason, Christian would be like, all right, we'll give him JTE. And I would chop that tree right down. I felt like Brock Lesnar. I was just a legend killer. People would come in, and I would just body slam them out of the ring. So I feel like I'm really proud of a lot of my matches, because you look at, like, the hardest opponents, I won a lot of them. It was some of the lower opponents I lost to, where it was either just because of luck of the draw, spin. It was just bad luck sometimes.
What was that, Kees?
Reggie.
Yeah. I don't feel bad about Reggie at all, by the way. Because when I walked off set, everyone on set was like, what the hell? I have no idea. The only person in that room who knew the answer was Mark Riley. Outside of everyone else that was watching, the competitors that were watching, everybody had no idea what the pet's name was, except for Mark Riley. Mark Riley knew.
Yeah, because that dude knows those three films backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And in fairness, some of the losses that you had were absolutely fantastic matches. Like, one of my favorite matches I saw of yours was the 5-rounder final against Sam Levine in 2017. That was a freaking match, if ever there was one.
Sam's a tough opponent, man. I mean, he's good, and I respect him. And that's the thing. It's very rare that I got blown out against a good opponent. Like, as long as you're in it towards the end, you have to, be pretty happy with the match. I just hate when it happened with me in my last match. Like, some of the questions I got compared to my opponent was just like, what the F is going on here?
Yeah.
So, but that happens,
Yeah, Ridley Scott, unfortunately, wasn't very kind to you.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was, but at least we didn't have another Eliza Dushku moment.
Yeah.
Which
that's frustrating too when you know the answer, but you just how you pronounce that name? Damn it.
Willie the Bull.
Yeah. Which, okay, and then I think to close out on the hour, because I don't want to keep you too much longer. Let me just ask you this then. Mm-hmm. You in your Schmoedown career, you are known for giving us some of the funniest and best moments of all time. Whether it's Triceratops or whether it's Geppetto or the Jew Bear, which Nico has a great quick story. I'm sure he'll want to tell about that. Obviously a lot of this is just kind of by accident, but Did you take some actual crap for any of those for a while, or did people just know to just go along with the joke?
No, I never got really crap for any of that. I mean, listen, if you know me, day-to-day life, none of those things were surprising. Ask Mark, Christian, all those guys, like, none of those were like, yeah, no, that's JT. That's nothing surprising to do there. It's just the difference between doing it after the show is when you do it on a big stage in front of cameras, everyone knows about it. But I find them just as hilarious as everybody else. The only time I'm mad is in the moment. So I'm like, damn, I want that point. I knew the answer. I just couldn't get out of my brain right.
Fair enough. Nico, Kees, any final things?
Should I tell him the story?
Yeah,
Yes.
do it.
Okay, so we were doing a reaction for one of your matches from earlier this year, and I drew on my whiteboard the head of a bear with a yarmulke on it, and I said, "This is the JTE is wanting to get some momentum in this match because he's releasing a children's book coming out soon, and it's called Geppetto and the Jew Bear." And I held up the whiteboard with the bear and the yarmulke on it, and everyone in the call just burst out laughing.
Geppetto and the Jew Bear. I'm going to work on that book now. Dalton, go ahead.
I will read it. We will review it on this channel if you actually make that a book.
Absolutely, we will. Yeah. So then, Kees, any final things?
Say that again?
No, I don't. Sorry.
All right, that's fine.
Sorry.
I'm just drawing a blank today.
That's fine, man. Yeah, no.
I mean, guys, if you see my reaction, it's embarrassing.
He needed some coffee, but it is what it is. And I suppose then with that, guys, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but look, sometimes it happens. You just have to go with the flow. You just have to make it work, and do what you gotta do. But to our guest, Josh Tapia, a.k.a. JTE, thank you once again, man. Always appreciate seeing you. And where may the good folks find you online?
Twitter, JTE Movie Things. So check out my YouTube channel, JTE Movie Things. I do reviews. I've been doing reviews for The Mandalorian, staying up really late to shoot them right afterwards. So that's been a lot of fun. That show's great. Just check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot more free time now, so I'm doing a lot more. Trying to do at least a video a day.
Nice. Kees, where can the good folks find you online?
You can follow me at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees Cornelisse on Facebook and Letterboxd. We also do reviews for The Mandalorian right here and Dedicated to Art, and reviews for Star Wars Resistance, which is also still ongoing. So check that out when it drops. And that's it.
All right. Nico, where may the good folks find you online?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, at Nico Suave Regoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 red and meaningless numbers at the end, on Discord, Instagram, Snapchat, and LinkedIn coming after college graduation. Combat Wrestling Trivia on Facebook, Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestlin, the number 2. There is no letter G. Sometimes on TMG Entertainment, where I am the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate Champion of the World. And, of course, right here on Dedicated to Art and all the places these two gentlemen have said or will say in just a moment. Hashtag Trivia for Thon 2. There will be a video announcing the schedule for that charity event in January. The video won't come out in January. The video will come out within the next week or so.
Finally. And, of course,
somebody likes wrestling.
Apparently. And, of course, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page. Join our Facebook group. Next week, we got a pre-taped episode coming up because I'm going to be on vacation, and I'm going to fucking enjoy myself. So, until we are all back the week before Rise of Skywalker, you know what to do. Take care!
Yeah!